Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and so we got a really weird update for Epstein, and let me know if my quality's bad. I'm hoping that everything's going to be fine, but I get these warnings that my data might be up or whatever. So we're going to take a route less traveled. Obviously, if you tuned in earlier, um, you saw the information about him having issued in the 80s by a foreign country, right? A foreign country. They didn't say which one. Thank you very much, Sunshine. And he had a alias and a Saudi Arabian address. Now, up until now, Saudi Arabia has been pretty much out of the mix. But as I've been speaking about, in the 80s, the Iran-Contra gang, there's a lot more to that than we've even discussed. For instance, do people understand that the shadow government was revamped by people like Dick Cheney and George H.W. Bush under Reagan while Iran-Contra was going on? It was called the National Programs Office. Let me repeat that. The National Programs Office. And when we talked about that network, right? When we talked about that network, we talked about how it was Israel supplying the Contras with the guns, and they were making deals with a Saudi Arabian, right? And his name was Adnan Khashoggi. So with that Saudi Arabian, and we're going to start walking and talking here. This way, Carm. We're going to go this way. So with Adnan Khashoggi in Saudi Arabia, what happens? Well, you've got more of a proxy situation. And now you know that during the 80s, somehow Epstein has an alias and a Saudi Arabian address with a foreign passport issued. Couldn't get weirder than that, right? Oh, it's about to get weirder. So before we get into a guy named Rusty Shackelford, who apparently must live in Little St. James, but after this video, look him up. He's got some crazy drone footage. And before we get into that, I want to say that I'm going to be showing as much of the press conference earlier as I can find. If anybody knows where the full press conference is, and by the way, thanks Flickoff for the super chat is, please send it to me, because I could only find bits and pieces of the press conference with David Boies and Bradley Edwards. And what I didn't like is it seemed like, for instance, the press was kind of almost trying to dox some of the victims. They were focusing in on their faces, and I thought it was brave enough for them just to show up. I think many of these women have still remained anonymous. Some other big points to make are that since then, apparently, more women have come forward just since the arrest. So, I mean, this is fully developing. Now, where does it get weird? We're going to do a full video on this when we get home, because you're going to see it to believe it. See it to believe it. I couldn't believe it. So this guy, Rusty Shackelford, he's only got about 8,000 subs. I just subbed to him. Hopefully he's not going to be mad that I use any of his video footage. But, all right, so the dome on top of that weird temple, right? It's gone, but the temple is still there. So I misreported. I thought that they bulldozed the whole temple. No, they did renovations. The temple is still there, but the top of it is off. And by the way, this guy shot this in 4K. So if you got a 4K monitor, you can see some stuff. For instance, and I'm going to show this in the video, when he gets up next to this temple, all of the statues and the Greek god stuff, and I believe Pan was in there, they're gone. So that is gone, and the dome is gone, but the actual temple's not. And in one of the windows, you can clearly see a ladder, and it looks like there must be like some internal construction going on. Now, I know people have talked about tunnels, right? A lot of people have talked about the tunnels. Well, you can see that there are openings in the ground in several places, And let's not forget, there was a lot of disinformation going around that there were explosions on the island and, everything was in chaos. It's not true. So yeah, I don't know if you've seen it, DMK, but it's pretty wild. Now, I'm going to be doing a full video on this because you know what else he has there? And this is where it gets so weird. We already saw a lot of weirdness with this, right? He's got an occultic giant sundial. And what do I mean, an occultic giant sundial? So we've all seen the sundial tattoos, right? With the face, and even Sublime has the album cover, and that slightly resembles it. But you see them on tarot cards, all right? And they have an occultic meaning of knowledge, and, in that world, it's supposed to be like a positive symbol. So he has a gigantic, massive, and with multicolor seating to represent each hour. He's got 12 little benches in segments
by this giant Occultica thing. It's really wild. Like when I saw that, I was just like, whoa, how could this get any weirder? And then at one of the areas they zoom in on, it looks like an outer loft or whatever. Like I said, the statues that were outside of the temple, they're all gone. But from the backside, it seems like either it's a stone or a wood carving of some kind of, I would imagine some kind of a deity. I'm not sure what. But why is it when you get into all this weird stuff, right? You get into intelligence networks, you get into pedophilia, you get into the upper echelons of power. Why in the world is there always like this really weird occultic angle? And now I got to see a giant sun symbol on this high-level predator's island? So bizarre. It is just beyond words. I don't know what else to say about it. Thursday, apparently, is when we're finally going to get a ruling by the judge whether or not he can get out. I don't understand how it's even a thing. I mean, with the media pressure of Acosta having to hold a press conference, lie through his teeth, then the next day step up with the president and hold another mini press conference in which he resigns, should let anybody know that the people are demanding, and I know you guys are, full level prosecution of this monster, period. Full level prosecution, and we don't want it to end with Epstein. We want to know who his high level clientele were. You know, with his safe, with his 80s expired passport from a foreign government, and his pile and diamonds, and his weird prosthetic breasts over his tub. Yeah, I want to know what's up. I want to know what other kind of operations are going on. So, you know, if you missed my beginning, I really need people to understand that if this is in the 80s, and he's got a Saudi Arabian residence, and it's issued by, say, I don't know, Israel, because it's not by the United States. And we know that Vicky Ward reported that Acosta himself told the Trump transition team the reason he had to back off is because the guy was intelligence. When he gets asked in the press conference, he won't answer the question. He goes roundabout. He talks about rabbit holes. Thanks, Acosta. It's really nice of you. I wanted to hear about rabbit holes. And everybody who knew anything about the case knows he lied through his teeth. Miami Herald, all of them, they all said it. They're like, come on. This was nonsense. This was a PR move, and it was a poor one, and it did not work. So you have all this stuff in the safe, and it's in the 80s. You got to start looking at Iran-Contra. You got to start looking at H.W. Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld during that period. All right? You know, Oliver North is just a guy that kind of got caught up in the mix and got caught. You know, Barry Seal, that network. Because again, with Adnan Khashoggi, the rich Saudi Arabian arms dealer, who, yes, was in relation to Jamal Khashoggi, 100%. Okay, you had that, right? And he's the uncle of Dodi Al-Fayed. If everybody doesn't know who Dodi Al-Fayed is actually the prince, I guess you could call him. I mean, Egyptian royalty. He was a very wealthy man. He was dating Princess Diana when they both got killed together. It's weird. And his father fought for quite some time trying to get the truth about that case out. Didn't really turn out his way, but there's enough evidence to show that we've been lied to about that as well. So, I'm just hoping everybody keeps the pressure forward. If you like the content, please thumb it up, share it, and like I said, later we'll do a deep dive on the footage from the island. The footage is nuts, man. Like I said, 4K, go download it now. It's short. I mean, I think it's less than 20 minutes altogether. And I'm just going to be showing really stills of it and kind of explaining how bizarre this is on this compound. You know, there's another guy out there named Big Fish. He's going live with Titus Frost tonight. I had Titus on earlier. They do great research. He's showing what assets came out in court. And I think they were trying to say that Epstein was only worth $550 million. But a lot of that's hidden. So we'll see where it goes from here, guys. Like I said, full deep dive coming up with the footage later this evening. Thank you so much for joining me. And again, thanks for everybody that gave to my GoFundMe and makes this possible. I really appreciate it. We're kicking butt and taking names. Let's go, Burmese Brigade. Peace out, Cub Scouts.